Hello and welcome to another episode of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at Dynasty Dad FF. Joined as always by my main man, FF Snoog. And today, what we're going to talk about is we're in OTAs. We're starting to see some of these rookies flash. We're starting to see, quarterbacks really develop some chemistry. For me, Snoog, the biggest thing of the early part of OTAs is seeing the quarterbacks thrive. It's seeing these quarterbacks rise in value. A lot of our quarterbacks from year one that were rookies into year two, they've added some elite level weaponry. Some of them have gotten, massively improved offensive lines, others in free agency and getting ahead of the curve. A lot of guys are behind on that. We're going to teach you guys how to, trade up and get these 10 quarterback risers before it's too late.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one because the quarterback landscape is made up of a ton of young quarterbacks under the age of 23, 24, 25 years old. If you just look at the top 12 to 15 landscape right now, it's ridiculously young. So I'm excited. A lot of these guys who we're going to talk about today had big improvements. So that's why we're talking about how they're going to become risers. Some of them added elite wide receiver one. Some of them added a bunch of elite offensive linemen, and some of them just added depth at the wide receiver position, at the running back position, things that you want to see for these young quarterbacks to thrive in 2025. So let's jump into this one.
Yeah, and before we do that, guys, we did reach 4,000 subscribers on YouTube this past week, so thank you so much for all that have supported us so far. Smash the subscription today and just enjoy the process with us. I mean, we're bringing you content, 4 or 5 videos a week, plus we're doing everything on, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, all your major podcasts. We really appreciate all that support. So like Snoog said, without further ado, our first guy here from me is Bo Nix. Bo Nix is our super flex equivalent of the 104 in rookie picks. He's someone that Snoog, the 6th quarterback drafted in last year's class, but finished as the QB2 overall in fantasy of that class and finished as the QB7, which surprises everybody. QB7 overall, 3,775 passing yards, 29 touchdowns to just 12 INTs. The great part, Snoog, was he added 4 more touchdowns and another 430 yards on the ground. Bo Nix with Sean Payton is a perfect blend, right? It's much like another guy we're going to talk about in JJ McCarthy going to the right spot. I think if you saw Caleb or if you saw Drake Maye matched up with Sean Payton, we'd be similar things, but you can't deny the value of Bo Nix now that we've seen what Sean Payton can do with another solid quarterback.
Yeah, he went out there and absolutely took the league by storm. A guy that I don't really remember or even confidently can say a lot of people liked, like as a prospect, right? Like there wasn't a lot of pretty things about his profile or about what he did in college other than his last year at Oregon. We liked him over Penix, but from like a talent perspective, he wasn't up there with Maye, Daniels, Caleb, some of these other McCarthy quarterbacks, right? As prospects. So that's just an example of what an elite offensive line and an elite offensive minded coach can do for a young quarterback, even with a Cortland Sutton as his number one option. So let's jump into a few trades here on Dynasty Data Lab, and we'll break down kind of what Bo Nix is going for and what we're willing to pay.
Absolutely. And the key thing that you brought up there was, he started out a little slow. First 9 games, just 8 touchdowns, really more of a game manager. Final 8 games, Snoog, 21 touchdowns. I mean, he was almost throwing 3 touchdowns a game. His value has skyrocketed, at least should be, but let's see some of these trades.
Here's a perfect one because you get your equivalent value and then you get a huge upgrade with that 1-2 swap. So Brandon Ayuk in the 104 or Bo Nix and Chase Brown.
Oh yeah, give me the Bo Nix there because I value Bo Nix as the 104. So essentially, you're getting Chase Brown, one of my favorite running back values right now. Instead of Brandon Ayuk, smash that all day long.
Yeah, agree there. Bo Nix or the 106, 206, and a 26 second for the future.
See, if I need a quarterback, I'm really coming around on Bo Nix where I'm paying this. I mean, I like the 106. Yeah. I feel like that's probably Cam Ward, but I do think Nix, we've already seen it. He's got a better coaching staff. He's got better weaponry around him. If Cam Ward were in Denver, sure, but he's not. He's in Tennessee with, a bunch of wide receivers who we're hoping pan out.
And last one here for you, Ashton Genty, which is the 101 in a 26 second, or Bo Nix in the 103.
It's Ashton Genty, but oh my gosh, that's close, right? Like, I think this is a type of trade, Snoog, where in 8 months, if Genty's going to smash like that, that's a given. But if he doesn't, You get a Marion Hampton in him, or Ted Roy McMillan in him, or Travis Hunter in him. And if you're rebuilding, I have no problem with this trade. So I know 8 months ago we would have just said that was crazy, and even 3 months ago we would have said it was crazy. But I'm really in on Bo Nix. I think his value is going to continuously go up, and you're getting him at a startup value. He's going 3rd round. If he had the name cachet, I mean, he had a better season than Drake Maye. You could argue with the addition of RJ Harvey, with the addition of Pat Bryant, he had a very similar offseason as well. And the value hasn't changed much. You know whose value has changed by your and I standards? We've been on him since day one, but improved offensive line, weaponry, and still in startups, you and I have him as a late first in Smash Accept 19, which is Smash Accept Global. I got Burrow at 104. I'm about to pick at 209. Caleb went at 208. And I think that is screaming value in a startup.
Yeah, to me, he is a guy that has the most ceiling out of anybody outside of the first round of a startup in terms of a quarterback. I think that with his situation, we talk about it a lot on this show. Quarterbacks need an offensive line and a young, smart, offensive-minded head coach to thrive a lot of the times, or they need elite weaponry. He's got all three. He literally has all three. And the fourth piece to becoming a top 5 finisher or top 3 finisher and having that crazy elite upside that we look for in fantasy football, Dad, is rushing upside. 490 rushing yards last year, and that he could easily hit 500, 600 yards rushing, and I could see him punching in 2, 3, 4 rushing touchdowns. So he literally has all 4 of the things that you want to be an elite dynasty quarterback, and the weapons are ridiculous. He has probably some of the best weapons in the NFL, definitely in that top 3 range. So I'm super excited for him. 23 years old, so much to gain in terms of value. I think he's a lock to gain value, a lock to be a top 5 to 7 quarterback heading into next year in Dynasty.
And right now he's valued at that QB9 range. I think this is the type of time where you get an insulated trade. I spoke out to you yesterday during the startup, and I was like, if I could trade Burrow and get a 27 first on top of it, what do you think? And you said smash, because I think there is a real opportunity for Caleb Williams' value to rise and for that to, really close the gap. Let's pull up some trades on Data Lab here, because I think there's a lot of opportunity to grow with Caleb Williams. There's a lot of trade opportunity like this first one. I mean, Justin Jefferson, a 2nd and a 4th, or Caleb, Rome, and a 26 first.
This is like the perfect rebuild and just anything trade, right? Like it sets you up for a rebuild big time. You're really just hoping Rome Odunze hits, and if he does, it's an absolute fleece of a trade. But this is a great type of trade that you could probably get done selling a Chase, selling a Jefferson, selling like a Lamar, one of those type of guys as well.
I got another trade here where I think you can make this happen. There's a lot of teams that were rebuilding last year, and they wanted Caleb Williams to literally be the savior of their team. They drafted him with a 101. We had collapse for Caleb everywhere. They're like, oh, I got him. And then you see Daniels blows up, and you see all these other guys blow up, and Caleb didn't. On a rebuilding team, I would argue that you could still take the Caleb side, but 2 random 26 first and a 26 third, or Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I'm going to take Caleb there all day long. I think you're getting a quarterback in 2026 that's not even going to be half the talent or player as a Caleb Williams in a weaker class as is already. Caleb Williams would have been worth 3.5 plus first in that draft class if he came out in 2026 as the 101. You just got to go with him, right? Like he's already worth more than 2 firsts, in my opinion. If he blows up this year, throws 4,500 yards and 30 plus touchdowns, like we keep saying is going to happen, he's going to be worth 3 firsts.
It's a lock. I got 2 more here for you. The first one, and again, it's all about that stack, but Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson over with the Jets, or Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze with that Bears stack?
Caleb Rome all day long. All day long. I love that move.
And the last one, just because we literally just talked about both of them. Snoog, would you rather have Caleb Williams and a random 2nd, or Bo Nix and a random – wait, they have Bo Nix and a random 3rd. The other way around. Caleb Williams and a random 3rd, or Bo Nix and a random 2nd?
I'm going to take Caleb Williams very comfortably. I'm so much higher on him than I am with Bo Nix, but I just think there's a big talent gap.
The 1-2 swap.
See, a 1-2 swap is what it would have to be for me to even
27.
consider, and I'd still take Caleb, but it's definitely closer. I think the gap is a first, though.
Well, and the age gap, I mean, Caleb's what, 22, Bo Nix is 25. A lot of people
Yeah.
forget that Bo Nix is a little bit older coming out. The other guy that I think, and we've spoke about this, we talked about weapons, we talked about rushing upside, we talked about, everything under the sun. McCarthy fits that same mold as Bo Nix, as Caleb Williams. That McCarthy gets the biggest bump because now he's the starter. I had been screaming since the day of his injury, like, go buy JJ McCarthy, right? He must have been on 3 different rebuild shows that I did, and most people called me crazy. They're like, oh, it's Darnold. No, it's not. It was never going to be. Sam Darnold was a top 12 quarterback in this offense, right? They let him walk. So what does that say about JJ McCarthy? He will be a top 12 fantasy quarterback with more rushing upside. We talked about Nix and Williams both hit 400 yards. I think there's a real chance that JJ McCarthy could rush for more than that. He is primed to be the guy to break out. I mean, solid arm with good ball placement, agility in the pocket, that dual threat, good size. A lot of people think he's undersized. He's 6'3", and I think with Jefferson, with Addison, with Hawkinson, with an extremely improved offensive line, JJ McCarthy, I have as the superflex equivalent of the 105. I would prefer him over Cam Ward again because of the weapons. You're getting elite weaponry in that spot. So if you're on the clock at 105 through 107, I would really advocate going after JJ McCarthy. I think there's going to be a lot of trades here that are advantageous to go after him. But I think in your rookie draft, a lot of people are going to say, well, Cam Ward's the new flashy toy. And Cam Ward has looked good at camp. However, give me JJ McCarthy. I want as much JJ McCarthy as I can get. Let's see some trades here involving the new Vikings quarterback.
Yeah, and I love that you highlighted, like, he's got it all because, like, the coach, Kevin O'Connell, is a mastermind, offensive-minded coach again. Like, when you see someone turn Darnold into that, like, you're hoping and you're guaranteeing that a 22-year-old quarterback can do that in this same type of system with the weapons and just, hit the guy, right? Hit the open guy. He can do that at the bare minimum, and he can extend plays. But jumping into it right away, would you rather Bryce Young in a random 26 second or JJ McCarthy? So is that second enough for you to get that upgrade and go up and get a JJ McCarthy who's in a far better situation?
I actually think it is because, Snoog, when I look at this, right, Bryce Young, first 8 games were absolutely – his rookie year was horrible. The beginning of last year was horrible. And then now we look at him in the final 8 games. He was a top 10 quarterback. He does get Tedoroy McMillan. He's someone that I'm going to mention later. But, Snoog, if both of them post mediocre seasons, what's the difference? JJ McCarthy's value goes nowhere. If Bryce Young does not post a top 12 season, I think he dips just because everyone wants to see it. And if it doesn't happen, it's going to dip. Where JJ McCarthy, he's essentially a rookie, right? We talk about rookie values. Drake Maye did not have a great rookie season, increased in value. Caleb Williams, not a great rookie season, increased in value. JJ McCarthy will 100%, unless he's benched, which there's zero chance of that, with Sam Howell as the backup, JJ McCarthy is going to increase in value. So give me him over Young. I'm hoping it's not an early second, but I would be okay with it.
Yep, I agree. I'm taking the guy with a better situation with a better path to value in McCarthy there. I like that. I got a spicy one for you. This could be a really good deal if you have like a Josh Allen already or a Lamar or a quarterback like that, and you have Burrow too, right? And you need another asset. Like you're kind of hurting a little bit. You need a 2-for-1 type deal. JJ McCarthy and Ashton Genty or Joe Burrow. Who are you taking?
There's very few situations where you don't want to say Joe Burrow, right? Like I think Joe Burrow in a 6-point passing league is literally a cheat code. I've drafted him in my last 3 startups at the 104, and I feel great about it. So if it's 6-point passing, it's 100%. I'm leaning Burrow still, but if I'm at a spot where like I already have that alpha, it's 4-point passing, maybe 0.25 PPC. I think Genty's going to smash. Genty went 112 and smashed except 19. So you're basically getting a late first and a late third for a 104. I think depending on your build, I think you could actually make that trade and still feel pretty good about it. But Joe Burrow is one of those guys that's just – he's not untradeable, right? But you need that tax. You need that 25% to 40% stud tax.
And from a startup perspective, for those of you in startups and you have that first round pick, right, and you're trying to build back and get more value on top and have a deeper build, You could easily do a trade like this where you're turning your first round starter pick into a mid to early second and getting a 6th or 5th round starter pick on top of that second. People will pay that all day long, especially people that, think they can go get Burrow and Lamar, right? And get that stack. Like they want another first round starter pick. People will do that. I promise you that.
We had someone do it for Jaden and Josh in Smash Except 19. And
exactly.
It cripples the rest of your build, though. I mean, you get 2 elite absolute studs, but you don't go into a punt.
Carry you, which is crazy.
I know.
Like, they could.
I know, it's crazy.
If you fill it in with a bunch of like Kamaras and Connors and stuff, like you could probably make it work. But
this next guy has the ability to potentially carry as well. A guy that in college had some shades of Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, and we saw some glimpses of it in 2024. Now he gets improved offensive line, improved weapons at the running back and wide receiver position. Sell me on the equivalent of Drake Maye at the 102.
Yeah, 420 rushing yards in like 12 games. He left the game injured. He had 600, 700, 800 rushing yard upside with 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 rushing touchdowns. And the best thing about it is he's an absolute gunslinging machine. He's a guy that can let it rip for 4,000 yards, throw for 25, 30, 40 touchdown passes on a good year. He's got the improved coach. He got the improved offensive line. They brought in Stephon Diggs. They brought in Kyle Williams. They brought in help, right? Like it's not, they didn't get Jamar Chase, but they brought in a guy that's been an alpha in the league for a long time, who's a vet that's very good. And they brought in a good rookie separate. They brought pieces in. They brought in Travion Henderson. They made a ton of moves to improve that offense and improve Drake Maye's development. And I'm very confident that at 22 years old, a player that, we thought was a little bit raw coming out, could have used some time to kind of develop. We knew it wasn't going to be like right away. He wasn't going to be the best quarterback in the NFL, but we knew he had the tools to be a top 5, top 10 upside type of player. He flashed it. He showed it. He rushed for it. So I'm super excited for him because, again, like you said, people in startups, especially, Genti's going over him all day. But if you're sitting there at the 102 and you have good wideouts and running backs, right, coming out of a rebuild, and you're like, all right, I've been piecing this team together. I got, Jalen Hurts. I have no QB2 at all. I had the 102. I don't need Hampton. I don't need Travis Hunter. I don't need Tet. What can I do? I can take the 102 and I could go buy Drake Maye with it. I could throw a second on top of the 102 and go get Drake Maye, whatever the equivalent difference is. But
he's in that gap. He's below Genty, but he's above whatever's there at 102, and that's kind of that nice spot. Looking at some trades here on Dynasty Data Lab, and Drake Maye's value has really risen, but there's some trades here where like AJ Brown, Alvin Kamara in a third, some of your favorites for Drake Maye in a second.
Yeah, I think you can comfortably lean the Drake Maye side, especially in a rebuild. In a contending standpoint, if I have 3 quarterbacks, I'm trading Drake Maye for this, like in this situations we talk about where you have four good quarterbacks, and there's tons of people in the Discord that have that. And I'm like, dude, take Drake Maye and go get yourself an elite foundational wide receiver and get yourself a starting running back. And in this case, you're doing that.
And I say that to people all the time is you were drafting Bo Nix at 112. You were drafting JJ McCarthy at 108. You were drafting Drake Maye sometimes at 106, 107. And you brought up the Discord. I'm going to drop the link there below, patreon.com/smash accept. You get all my content, Snoog's content. A lot of you guys have come in and just, wanted to dominate your rookie drafts. We will be doing this all year long where we're going to give you our weekly rankings. We're going to give you our dynasty buys, our dynasty sells. You get access to DM both Snoog and I. And, in our VIP and premium packages, we have a guaranteed response time of 4 hours. No one has that. No one. No one's as in-depth and as in tune with what you guys are trying to do. So Snoog and I really try to put a personal effect on it. We've built that room to be like what we want. When we were starting out in Dynasty, if we had something like this, even better. We got him when we were 40, but that's just kind of how we roll. So next one, let's go with Joe Burrow or Drake Maye in a random 26 first.
I want Drake Maye. I want the Drake Maye side.
Even if it's late?
I think it needs to be at least I think it needs to be at least like 107, 108 for me. At least.
How about this one? Justin Herbert at 27 second, a 27 third, or Drake Maye. I think
I have Herbert over Drake Maye.
I do too. Everybody's like Drake May to the moon, and I get that, right? But like Justin Herbert, who arguably should be in this show, we did not have him on our docket, but I mean, he adds Trey Harris and Marion Hampton.
Oh,
it's going to be a
he
run.
would absolutely be on it. Yeah.
It's a run first offense, but Justin Herbert, talent wise, is very similar to Joe Burrow. It's just the offense that they run is completely different. Like
I think
if you put him on the Bengals, it's the same.
I think Herbert's a guy that you can guarantee lock him in to be good till he's like 37, 38 years old. Like, I feel like he's as franchisable as a quarterback. That's not even a word, but like as guaranteed of a franchise quarterback you can kind of polish up and be like, this guy's going to be gunslinging like Joe Flacco till he's 40, So
you said, hey, you said polish. How about this turd sandwich? You just polish them up real nice, ship them off. Anthony Richardson, Chris Godwin, Isaac Garendo in a third, or Drake May.
Yeah.
Like,
go send that guy a fruit basket for that. You did him dirty.
We all need a good fruit basket from every now and then. The next guy I love, it's Jordan Love. 2 years ago, and I'm not speaking ill on anybody else in the community, but I was telling everybody to buy Jordan Love, and I was getting a lot of mockery, like, Dad, Jordan Love's trash. Dad, you shouldn't be buying him for this. And in all my rookie drafts, the year after, like he was on the bench, I was buying him for the 110 to 112, and people were like, Dad, he's never going to be worth a first. Right now, his equivalent is the 103, and I frankly think it's too low. We were talking about Jordan Love ascending into that elite status after his 2023 year of 32 touchdowns, 401 passing, or 4,159 passing yards, 247 rushing yards with 4 touchdowns. Again, that's the key, Snoog, is that rushing floor, 18.8 fantasy points per game. 2024 rolls around, he gets injured week 1. What's the first thing to go when a quarterback gets injured, especially in his legs? It's the rushing upside. He only ran for 80 yards and 1 touchdown. So you cut out 160 yards and 3 touchdowns. You're cutting off, an insane amount of points. You're just, it's over, 3 points per week where you're just cutting that off. Then you look at, they became a run first team to combat that. They were just trying to, maintain the ball, make sure they weren't doing anything to get Jordan Love hurt. He dipped down 8 touchdowns, 800 yards, everything dipped, but I don't think the talent dipped. I think it was the situation dipped. Now you add to the equation Matthew Golden. They have not had a true, we like Jaden Reed as a guy who's good yards after the catch. And we like Dontavian Wicks as a separator who doesn't catch the ball. And we like, Romeo Doubs, right? What's the one thing that none of those guys have? Elite speed. You get Matthew Golden, who's going to, at minimum, you don't have to like Matthew Golden to love the situation that Matthew Golden adds to Jordan Love. He is going to give him a deep threat. He's going to give him someone that, a separator, a nuanced route tree. He ran a 4.29 Snoog. He's going to open up the door for Jordan Love and all these other guys. I love this situation. Let's start talking about some trades with Jordan Love, because it's a post-hype sleeper, right? He blew up and then he didn't produce, just like he's very similar. You and I are like, I'm a Love guy. You're a Stroud guy. Both these guys had a similar thing. Incredible 2023s, downfalls in 2024. Now it's time to buy with the bounce back in 2025.
Yeah, and I think Jordan Love's a guy that you could really use as that position. He's in that spot in Dynasty where you can either tier up or tier back, and both are win-wins in terms of the value you're giving up. So right away, David Montgomery and Dak Prescott, packaging up 2 veterans, maybe trying to get a little bit younger, get a foundational asset for Jordan Love.
That's, we don't do this on
throw
the
him a second too.
That's the cowbell. Like, yeah, you got to add more to that from me. I mean, that's, I would do that with any of these guys that we talked about. Bryce Young, I would do that with Trevor Lawrence. I would do that with a lot of these quarterbacks.
And that's what we should be trying to do, right? Like we should be trying to do that, because you're getting up to a guy that has such a bigger ceiling.
And David Montgomery's a nice asset, right? But he's never anybody you write home to about. Chris Godwin's a nice asset. There's a lot of guys, even packaging, someone asked me today what my thought process was on Zay Flowers. I said, these are guys that you use to upgrade to something else, so you use that asset of like Zay Flowers plus a Matthew Stafford and get yourself Jordan Love, or you kind of use them as alternate assets.
Brock Purdy and Pat Freiermuth, or Jordan Love and Evan Ingram. I think that's a double upgrade win.
Yeah, I do. I like Brock Purdy a lot, but I don't
Me
think
too.
he offers the same upside that Jordan Love is. He offers a safer floor. I think Jordan Love has a good floor. Brock Purdy might be the safest floor dynasty quarterback there
Yep.
is outside the elite guys. So, but I mean, I think Evan Ingram is going to have a fantastic year. Now as number one, no pun intended, he's literally rolling out there with that as his uniform number. I think he's going to have a good year with Drake May or with
Yep, I agree.
Bo Nix. Bo Nix.
Yep. And
Okay.
last one here we're going to jump into is your equivalent, the 103 or Jordan Love in 6.12 team superflex. Anything over, obviously 14, 16 team, it's the quarterback, but
situationally dependent. But I mean, if Jordan Love's my QB3, then I might take a shot on Tet or Hunter. If I need a QB2 though, Jordan Love is going to provide more for my fantasy team than either of those guys. And I think Jordan Love sneaks back into the second round of startups next year. I mean, I think they were starting to go late first, early second, both Jordan Love and CJ Stroud. I sold my case for Jordan Love. I want to hear yours for CJ Stroud.
Yeah, I think Stroud's case is simple, right? He's a guy that came out and looked like an absolute stud as a rookie. Last year, the box score didn't tell you he was as good as he was as a rookie, but he still made so many of those plays I saw as a rookie that I was like, wow, like this kid, he sees the field extremely well. He facilitates the field. He can do it all, throws at all three levels. His timing is a little bit off. There was a lot that, when you're getting sacked the second most in the NFL and your offensive coordinator is an absolute chowderhead and can't even scheme up a protection for your quarterback, and there's free rushes coming off every single play, you're in shotgun. Bobby Slowick literally ruined that offense last year, and like people want to say, oh, you can't just blame it on the yes, I can, because I watched every single game, I watched every single snap, and I would see 3rd and 10. Why isn't Nico Collins on the field when he's fully healthy? 3rd and 6. Why is it John Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson and you're running a hot route to John Mechie who drops the football at the Jets game? I was at all those games. I watched all those games. He's gone. They brought in Nick Caley, who's the Rams offensive-minded player coming from a McVay system, so you're going to have a new system. He already said that Stroud's going to have a lot of duties at the line of scrimmage, which you want for your young quarterback. That's like what you want to do. Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, healthy Nico Collins, Joe Mixon. They brought in a pass catcher running back. They revamped up the offensive line. I think it got worse in terms of top-end talent, but it got way deeper, and it got just new faces, which you need. But I think that you're just going to see a lot more from C.J. Stroud this year in year 3. I think he's going to bounce back big time like we talked about with Love. Another guy that has, if he hits his ceiling, 4,500-yard upside with 30, 40 passing touchdowns if he's in his stride. So
I'm from the Philly area. Snoog's from the Boston area. When we get excited about players, the accents come out. Snoog's always the Boston accent or the chowder references when it comes to CJ Stroud, when it comes to the Texans. He gets excited. He drops them out. Let's get excited about some of these trades. The first one's interesting to me. We're going to look at it's Kyler Murray, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Devontae Adams, or CJ Stroud, Nico Collins, Jaden Reed, and the 202.
Yeah, I want the Kyler side here. I think Gibbs and Adams so much over Nico Reed in the second. But if you erase Gibbs and Collins in the second, and it's like Stroud and Reed for Kyler and Adams, I'm smashing the Stroud side. Or if it's like Kyler and Adams for Stroud in that second, I want the Stroud side. Like those type of things. But Gibbs just kind of weighs. He's the most valuable player in the whole deal.
Here's one I think you'll like. CJ Stroud in the 109 or Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton.
Oh, yeah. Stroud all day long.
Even if that's the 112, I feel like that's the play on that one. Sometimes people overpay for stacks, which I never really understand. I get it that you want to have a stack, but you don't overpay for a stack. I mean, there's some trades in here. CJ Stroud straight up for Chase Brown. That's insane to me. There's really no point in that kind of trades. How about Cam Ward and Trey Harris or CJ Stroud in a random 26 first?
That's
a free first, right?
The free first.
Would you? So I think I'm looking at it though. The interesting part to me is taking a guy like Trey Harris, who's going to get some hype, with the Chargers, and Cam Ward, who's getting hype, and packaging those two guys up just straight up for CJ Stroud. I think is a good practice right now. I mean,
CJ
Stroud or JJ McCarthy in 2 seconds.
Stroud all day long.
Yeah.
That was a tweet I actually put out. Take J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix, these type of guys, add seconds and go get Stroud, Love, Kyler, Brock Purdy, guys that actually have those high ceilings, right? And I think McCarthy does, but Penix, some of these other guys, like what's the ceiling ever going to be? Or is he guaranteed to be good like these guys? That's another big thing, so.
Right. And neither of them have true rushing upside, but Michael Penix if Michael Penix rushes for 200 yards, I'd be kind of shocked. Like he's just more of
CJ's rushing upside that we saw in the playoff stretch. 40, 50 yards a game. He can move. He just got to figure out how to do it more.
Yeah, for sure. The next one that I think, we've kind of been on this for a while is Bryce Young. The writing was on the wall, very similar to when I was talking about McCarthy. Is Bryce Young, I was buying everywhere. I was just like, okay, he got benched. I was buying him for late seconds, pair of thirds, because just Dynasty is a cyclical game. You can really predict where values are going to be. Now I have him firmly in that 107, 108 range. And Snoog, I mean, after he came back in week 8, and I told you when it happened that when Andy Dalton, the Red Rifle himself, took over, Team Ginger right there, took over for Bryce Young, you're like, Bryce Young's going to come back possessed. Like, I think you can either make or break, right? Like, if a guy gets benched and they're soft, their career's over. If a guy gets benched and they're hardened, a guy that played at Alabama, a guy that has a ton of upside, he comes out, final 8 weeks, QB8 in fantasy points per game, 21.3. Second for PFF in big-time throws and big-time throw percentage. 8th in ADOT, which a lot of things, when you watched him as a rookie, Snoog, he was nickel and dime merchant, right? He was just dink dunk. There was nothing downfield. He was not trying to make risks. He was trying to play he just didn't want to make mistakes. 7th in PFF passing grades. And why do I love him? Like, why do I like Bryce Young right now? Because Tedroy McMillan. Tedroy McMillan is there. Tedroy McMillan is my favorite rookie wide receiver in this class. I think he's going to take Tet to another level. I don't think, we were talking about some trades. If I could get Bryce Young in a first for Stroud right now, I would do that, but I think there's opportunities where Bryce Young is not a guy that I'm actively trying to buy unless I'm tearing off something big and getting a big plus, or I'm tearing up from an older player like a Dak Prescott, like a Matthew Stafford, something in that range to get a little bit more. He's my ideal QB3. I love having him as my QB3. I'm a little worried having him as my QB2. If he's my QB1, I'm rebuilding. That's literally where we're at. Yeah.
I love it. And right away, Bryce Young in a random 26 second or mid to late 26 first. Let's say it's 109 to 112.
I would say, given next year's quarterback class, the fact that only Arch is probably not coming out. Sellers is the only quarterback that I would prefer over Bryce Young. At this point, there's some other guys in there. I mean, I think Drew Aller is definitely in that conversation. Garrett Nussmeier's in that conversation. There's guys there, but Bryce Young in that class is probably the QB2, if not the QB3. So if it's not a top 3 pick where I'm going to lose out on Jeremiah Love, I'm going to lose out on, Singleton, some of these other guys, I'm okay with that as long as it's not going to be really early.
Yep, I agree. And then Bryce Young in a 26 second or Fields. I think that's a trade you could get done. Like, people are super bullish on Fields.
I do too. And this is where context matters, right? If it's my QB2, I really want Fields, right? Like, I think Fields will win you leagues. And if it's my QB3, then I want Young. Like, because then I have a guy that, because what the scenario is, Justin Fields is a QB1, which he will be as long as he plays, but he could play like trash and they bring in somebody else. Bryce Young's the starter in 2026, no matter what. I don't think there's a scenario where he falls off the planet like that. Justin Fields, though, is a league winner. Bryce Young is not. Bryce Young can give you some nice solid weeks. Justin Fields can throw up a 40 burger like that with 100 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. That's the gap there you have on that. And I think Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, even this next guy, not a ton of rushing upside, but Bryce Young down the stretch did rush for, multiple rushing touchdowns. I think down that 8-game stretch, he had 200 plus rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. So, I mean, I think him and Trevor Lawrence, for this matter, they add a little bit with their legs, but the most important part is they just got another elite weapon.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence lands Travis Hunter. He has Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, Bajul Tootin. He has Brian Thomas. He has Brenton Strange, Parker Washington. He's got guys, right? Like, he has the top end guys, and then he has some decent little depth there. Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr. are going to make Trevor Lawrence take the next step, and so is Liam Cohen. He's got an offensive-minded offensive coach now, so he's got that coach. He doesn't have Doug Peterson, and now he has two elite weapons. You could argue Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter are up there. You got what? A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. They're probably Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. They're probably right up there with those guys.
Puka Adams for a year.
Puka Adams. Yeah, it's those guys, right? They're right up there. So you got one of the best duos in the NFL before Hunter even plays a snap. And you're 25, 26 years old. I wish we could see Trevor Lawrence use his legs like we saw at Clemson, because that dude can take off. Like, he is a gazelle when he's running. But he still has the upside. And we saw – it's not like he hasn't done it yet. We talk about that a lot on the show. Like Bryce Young, he's kind of on the fence. Like, he started to do it a little bit, but he still has a lot to prove. But McCarthy, everyone's like, he hasn't shown anything. So if he comes out and shows up flat, we're like, oh, it's his rookie year, right? Trevor Lawrence already done it. He already had 4,000 yards. He already won a playoff game. He's already been in that mold. That's why we like Trevor Lawrence. The talent's there. The upside's there. The weapons, the offensive coaches there. The O-line stinks, but the defense stinks too. So they're going to be in games where he has to throw 40, 45 times a game. So let's jump in some trades for Lawrence.
People assume that Trevor Lawrence has just been bad. It's not that he's really been that bad. It's just been a matter of fantasy production is not what you expected from him. I mean, over the last 3 years, Snoog, 2022, he was QB 12 at 17.9 fantasy points per game. 2023, 17.3, QB 13. 2024, 16.8, QB 13. So he's been a fringe QB 1, but everybody expected him, because where was he going in startups? Like 105. His rookie year was just something unheard of, where everybody just assumed, just like Caleb, that he was going to be the savior of their team and that they had no opportunity to kind of make any moves otherwise, right? So let's pull up some trades here on Data Lab, because I like some of these. The first one is 107 and Michael Pittman or Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, it's Trevor Lawrence for me all day long.
Trevor Lawrence or Bryce Young in a second. Very similar to what we just talked about.
It is. I want Lawrence here, though. I think
do too.
I think it's a good upgrade, and you're only paying a second. But
he just got paid. Like, he's a guarantee to be quarterback for the next 3 years. Young, exactly. I think he's bought himself another year for sure, but I don't think it's a lock for multiple seasons, right? Like, I don't think. How about Kyler Murray and a third, or Trevor Lawrence in a second? You and I love Kyler, but Kyler's his value's starting to get stale.
I think the upside's with Kyler and the rushing upside there, but I think that's a good, like, if you want to kind of upgrade a little bit with the draft capital and do like kind of like a little swap. I think I would want Lawrence in a second for Kyler straight up, though. I don't want to give anything with Kyler.
I agree. 2 more trades here that I really like: Justin Jefferson and a random 26 second, or Trevor Lawrence and BTJ. Right? That's tough.
Yeah, that's tough. I want J. Jeff, though. I want the security of J. Jeff.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Last one.
Guaranteed.
Last one to tie in several players that we've talked about already: Trevor Lawrence and Breece Hall, or Drake May and Justin Fields. And a second.
Ooh, I want Drake May, Justin Fields in the second. That's close, though. That's close.
People struggle with
a bunch of players that like all could be really good, or could kind of disappoint. So it's like,
you know who could be really good? I love him. He burned us all last year because you were excited about it early on. But from fantasy points per game perspective, Justin Fields literally has been a top 10 quarterback every single year. Last year, he was QB7 before he got benched. He got rid of some of the fumble problems, some of the interception problems. He worked on ball security. Now he goes to the Jets. So that was with the Steelers, with literally Najee Harris, who was one-legged all year, and his primary weapon of George Pickens. Now he goes to the Jets with Breece Hall and with Garrett Wilson, his college teammate. And Snoog, Justin Fields, I'm just watching. If a team paid him, this is the first time in my life where I've watched Justin Fields. He just looks comfortable. He's got this aura around him where I think he and Trevor Lawrence were neck and neck. When you look at actually high school wise, Justin Fields was projected over Trevor Lawrence to be that number 1 guy in the class. And in college, he looked great at Ohio State. He had that rushing upside, but he was able to pass. I think this year he kind of puts it all together. I have him as the super flex equivalent of the 109. Am I paying the 109? No. Am I paying a 26 first and a Michael Pittman or 26 first and someone who's not going to get it done for me? Somebody that's worth a second all day long. Would I pay the 112? I think so. 109 is equivalent. That doesn't mean that's what you have to pay for him. Snoog, Let's see some trades here from Justin Fields, because when I'm buying Justin Fields, I've done so many roster reviews, and I know Snoog has as well. And if you guys are interested in that, DM us, where we do roster reviews on the side to try to help you guys, smash your leagues and get into perspective. But so many guys come to me and their QB2 is the lowest ceiling guy. They got Geno Smith in there. You know what I mean? It's fine. I got no problem with Geno. Geno's the perfect quarterback 3. So now what I'm saying is, let's find a way to get Justin Fields. Let's tear off a wide receiver. Let's tear off, we talked about Zay Flowers already, the other guy. Let's tear off Jordan Addison and get Justin Fields and get them to throw in Geno, get them to throw in Matthew Stafford. And now you have upside with the Justin Fields, because Justin Fields is going to be a guy that's going to put up top 10 week in, week out.
Yeah, right away. And I think context matters with the Justin Fields, right? Like 4-point passing is different than 6-point passing for him. 100%. He has more value in 4-point right away. 4-point passing, Superflex League, Justin Fields and Brian Thomas Jr. for CD. I think that's a great trade you can get done in 9 out of 10 leagues. Yeah,
and I like that. I mean, I think it's the same way, though, is like if he's your QB 3 or 4, you can make that trade to utilize him into that other area. I'm not an advocate of selling him right now, because I think week 1, week 2, you're going to see one of those games. He's going to have a 30-point week.
Get a first plus all day. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep, I agree. 201 or Justin Fields and Jordan Mason. Smash.
I like Jordan Mason, but that's a smash. I mean, like I don't see any reason why you wouldn't add a little bit to 201 to get to him.
All right, let's find a juicy one here. Okay, I like this one. CJ Stroud, the 211 and the 111, or Justin Fields and the 101.
Oh, you're not gonna like me, but it's Fields in the 101.
It is. But so the good thing with a trade like that is, so people look at it like, okay, so like Genty and like Stroud in the second, let's say that just cancels out, whatever. And then it's like, maybe some people don't want to pay a first for Fields, right? Like that's where you get them, right? Like you get them with that. They're like, oh, well, I'm getting a first for Fields. And it's like, I'm getting Ashton Genty.
who's above CJ Stroud. The last one might be the best super flex value there is. Every other year he throws for 4,000 yards. 2020, 2019, 2021, 2023. Snoog, it's 2025. Dak's about to throw for 4,000 plus again.
Yep, he does it every single year he's healthy. I think 2 years ago?
Yeah, it's every 2 years.
Yards, 36 touchdowns. Literally just 2 years ago before the injury. QB3. Dak Prescott just got George Pickens, who's, other than Amari Cooper, going to be the best number 2 weapon he's had ever. Literally ever. He's literally Michael Gallup on steroids. Like, he is the perfect Dak Prescott weapon for this offense with CeeDee Lamb. He's got Ferguson healthy. He's got no running back still, but hey, Javonte Williams and Jadon Blue, hopefully one of them can put it together and be a Rico Dowdle. But they just made the right move by getting Pickens to make Dak hit his stride. I think that with how bad that defense still is, I think that Dak is still going to have to be a gunslinger, go out there and throw for 4,500 yards and score points. And I think he's going to be a fantasy football machine if healthy. He's supposedly recovering great from his injury, expected to play week 1. Things are looking good for Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. So let's jump into some trades here.
Dak Prescott is discount 2025 Joe Burrow. Like he's got a horrible defense.
I think he always is.
Yeah, he's got 2 really nice wide receivers right now. They're going to be playing from behind a lot. This is, I'm not saying value-wise he's anything close to Joe Burrow, but Dak Prescott is one of the best values when you look at Superflex. When you're looking at things. This first one, Snoog, Dak Prescott and Kyle Williams or Michael Penix Jr. and a second. This one's close. The second kind of, would you prefer Dak or Penix is basically what it comes down to.
Aren't they like the same age at this point?
Penix is old.
I'm taking Dak very easily because I don't think Penix has Dak's upside. And I think they have a very similar trajectory of how long they'll be good in the NFL for, right? Like I feel like if you told me Michael Penix is good in 10 years, I'd laugh. I'd be like, no, he's not. But
He'll
if you
be
told me he's
35
good
then.
for a couple of years, I'll be like, yeah, like he put some good years together, whatever. But I think Dak is literally going to be good for as long as Penix did. Obviously, I mean, that's a huge hot take with a guy that's 6 years younger, but I think that's a real world possibility. And you get Kyle Williams, who has a chance to be in the Pats, number 2, number 3 guy. So
I think my DMs will take an attack on me speaking ill of Zay Flowers yet again. But Zay Flowers, Patrick Fryermuth, and Tank Bigsby, or Dak Prescott and David Njoku.
yeah, I want Dak and David Njoku. I'm coming around on Zay Flowers because I've always loved the talent and the player. I just
100%.
don't know if the Ravens will ever help him hit a ceiling. If he was on the Chargers like we wanted him to be, he'd be a top 12 dynasty wide receiver right now. That's how talented he is, in my opinion.
But he's been, I think he has the same amount of games of under 40 yards as he does over 80 yards. It's just like it's very inconsistent. So how about this one? Matthew Stafford and a perceived late 27 first or Dak Prescott.
I want Staffy there. I love that 27 first you're getting in, similar production. I have one for you, and I'm like thinking in my head, like, I don't know what to do with this. And I want to see what you say. Dak, Jordan Addison in 101, so Genty, or Lamar Jackson.
Jeez. Addison doesn't really sway me enough to like want to do it because I feel like Dak, you're really on a shorter window with lesser upside. Lamar's just so hard to trade for me. I mean, if Addison was, I know you won't get it, but if Addison was like T. Higgins, Rashee Rice type,
yeah, then it's a smash, right?
Or if Addison was a 27 first, or I think Lamar's just too good to trade, and we did a whole trade show on when you guys are trading for those elite quarterbacks. Guys, this has been a fun show. Again, make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube page. It's over 4K now. Share it with your friends. Hit up the Patreon. There's the link down below. All of our content for as little as $5 a month, where you can literally, for less than a cup of coffee, get to chop it up with Snoog and I and 800 plus people every single day. So thanks for tuning in, guys, and enjoy the process.